Benny's Bridge, extreme left, and jumps through that flight of hurdles which have been flattened by Humble Hero. Also towards
a service of Capital District Offtrack Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow in with Sully, Crotty. Sully, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Cold, however.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to moderate a little bit at the beginning of the week, but I heard on the way in, drive carefully if you're headed into work tomorrow morning. Looks like it may be a little icy first thing in the morning, and then they said 38 as the day goes and in the 40s on Tuesday, so moderating, but not much.
It's not great, no. Because it just came out of nowhere. Usually it kind of progresses into it. And then last week it was snowed and it was about 19 degrees, so it just kind of went right into it.
Crazy. The winter is too early for winter. We have another month before it becomes official. So hopefully it does moderate at least for a few weeks here. Still on turf in New York, though. We talked to Dave Rodman yesterday. They've made the decision to end turf racing down in Maryland. Laurel, no more turf racing with the nice turf course they have there. But they are still going in New York. So, and speaking of New York, we're going to have an abbreviated edition today of Racing Across America. We'll go to about 10:40 or so we can catch Talking Horses. The noon post time they've had the past couple of weeks, the Talking Horses becomes kind of breakfast with Naira. Yeah. They kick off at like 10:40, 10:45. So we'll kind of wrap things up today, and maybe the next couple of weeks we may go a little bit earlier. We'll let you know about that. I assume that this will just be, I looked in the condition book, and they're trying to get 10 races in for at least the next 3 Saturdays, and then the condition book ends. And with 10 races and getting dark now, I think that's why they're shooting for the noon post time. But I'm sure they won't keep up the 10 races throughout the winter. I don't know whether they have the population, the horse population. So I would assume the next condition book comes out probably, as I say, the next 3 weeks. It looks like they're looking for Saturdays, 10 races. Some of the Sundays only 9. And then I would think we'll shoot back to maybe a 12:15 or 12:30 post time, at which time we'll be okay with the 10 o'clock Racing Across America. But as I say, the next couple of weeks or so we may switch things up. We will alert you if we're going a little bit earlier. But today we'll just kind of wrap it up a little bit early. We'll do some stakes recaps. We'll do some handicapping also, and then we'll wrap it up in time to plug into Talking Horses for some analysis of Aqueduct. Yesterday, Sully, on the show, I had Bob Ehalt, and I pulled him in. We talked about a number of different topics. He writes for the Blood Horse and also contributes to America's Best Racing. And America's Best Racing had a nice article on there within the past week, and I wanted to touch on that. He just kind of went over speed figures in general, what they're about. And then we talked about the specific speed figures, Beyer figures, the speed figures at Equibase and Brisnet, which I think are kind of similar to Beyer's. They maybe just use a little bit of a different formula, so the scale is a little bit different, but essentially you're looking at that single number in amidst the past performances. And then there are a little more complex figures, and Timeform has pace figures as well. So Timeform is a little more visual, and Ragozin and Thorograph are a little more in-depth. I said to Bob, I'm a Beyer guy. I've said that on this show and OTB Live many times. Tool in the toolbox. You can't always rely on them. And at different times, I've looked at the Rags and looked at Thorograph during the year. If you follow them, they'll have some specials where you can pull up a day free or whatever. And if you want to test, maybe look for those or find a friend who has them maybe. They can be expensive, but they give out great information. You play around. Have you played with some of the other figures?
Oh yeah. I mean, and the thing is, some people, they come up with their own formulas, but they're all relatively close to what Andy Beyer did, which is great. But some of these other types of handicapping tools, they have a different angle than what the past performances on the DRF or the Brisnet provide. So the speed figures are really everything. It's kind of, there's some hidden numbers in there, whether it's with the works or what a different angle someone saw in a speed race or a speed number in a race. So they definitely help. Sometimes they cost a little bit more, but you'll hopefully make it back and then some, because they kind of have a hidden angle that's just not present in the DRF or in the Brisnet.
Yeah, and I said yesterday, the last couple of summers up at Saratoga, as I've talked to various trainers, I've plugged in the question for most of them: do you use figures in your training? Do you look at numbers and then plan the racing calendar based on maybe the numbers and the direction? Virtually all the trainers have said yes. And they're mostly looking at either Ragozins or Thorograph or a combination of those. And again, they can be expensive, relatively speaking, but if it pays up and you make it back, it's worth it. So again, it was kind of an interesting discussion yesterday. I said it was for people who may be new to the game and aren't familiar with speed figures, or if you've been around the game and you just haven't really thought about the options out there. If you are like me and you use the Beyers, you may want to try some of the others and just see if it does add to your handicapping acumen, as it were. All right, let's jump in some of the stakes action from yesterday. Let's kick things off at Aqueduct in the key sense. This was for 2-year-old fillies going 6 furlongs. 2-year-old state-bred fillies, actually. I like Playtone. Playtone's going to wind up second as the 2-to-1 favorite, the number 2 horse. But Big Q, I could not pull the trigger on Big Q, who had a pretty good-looking debut effort up at Saratoga. Then they got ambitious and tried the Open Company Adirondack, ran 5th, went back to state-breds in a stakes race, ran 5th. So it was hard to see this effort. But as I said, a lot of times lightly raced horses can get a little time off and improve. Now, this horse hadn't been seen since the end of the Saratoga meet, so essentially a couple of months on the sideline. And I think that was enough to freshen Big Q up. That was a pretty good victory. Number 7, Big Q wins. Chart margin is 5 lengths. Playtone, the horse I like, clearly second by 3.5 lengths. And Time Limit runs third in there as the second choice at 5-2. The horse that was a little bit of a question mark in there was My Sassy Sarah. Andy had talked about the horse in the pregame show. Maggie talked about it in the paddock. It was a horse who had pretty good turf form. The question was, would that turf form translate? And they both commented, and I said, it's that time of year where you're taking a shot, seeing what you have. If you can go to the dirt in the wintertime with your turf horse, and if this is what's on the calendar to take the shot at a stakes race like this, well, you can take your shot there. Miss Sassy Sarah, far back early, didn't seem to like the kickback. Then Joe Rosario seemed to get the horse kind of moving on the turn. But when they went in the stretch, she gave it up, finished 6th in the field of 7. One of the horses was eased, so that wasn't even a good-looking 6th place finish. So I think they've answered their question. I had My Sassy Sarah in the mix. I thought, you know what, maybe the horse will take to the dirt. But no, didn't. But Big Q looking pretty good for Gary Gullo. So he has a nice looking New York-bred 2-year-old filly. And you would assume now, turning the calendar page in a month and a half, a little nice New York 3-year-old filly as well. Who as I say, seemed to benefit from the break after Saratoga.
Yeah, and you saw that there. And if you remember to the opening day, the maiden break, or Big Q, I think was 16-1, somewhere around there, and got the job done from way off the pace. And they kept trying to go from off the pace with Big Q. And then, I don't know if it was Jose Lascano or instructions by Gary Gullo, but Big Q was a lot closer to the pace than all the other races that she competed in, and she does have a nice closing kick because we did see it at Saratoga in one of the stakes races. She didn't look terrible from off the pace, so I don't know if it was Jose Lascano going to the lead in a shorter field or sitting off the pace in a shorter field, or if it was instructions, because Big Q was loading at the top of the stretch, and you saw it, and as you said, a very, very impressive win for definitely a horse that we saw 3 times at Saratoga. But the State-Bred Company is definitely the spot for her, and she kind of proved it, and really good job by Jose Lascano if he did that on his own.
Yeah, again, they were ambitious out of that debut effort, 14-1, so you got $30 for $30 there. They were ambitious, tried the grade 2 Adirondack, finished behind Perfect Alibi. So they obviously thought this horse had some talent, just didn't subsequently show it in the next 2 starts up at Saratoga. But again, seemed to enjoy the little break there. Big Q getting it done, Gary Gullo and Jose Lascano at $20.80. So another nice price if you've been on board that one for a couple of wins. You're doing all right. All right, let's move down to Laurel. Talk to Dave Rodman about these two-year-old stakes yesterday, and this may have been the best one, the most exciting, the James Lewis. And it's not news tome, as I said to Dave Rodman. I said, I'm not sure how to pronounce news. I thought maybe that was a word, like a book about news. Who knew? And then Dave Rodman said, no, it's news to me. And I'm like, no, of course it's news to me. These words, when they get mashed up, I screw them up every time. But news to me was the horse that I thought was interesting. We had taken a little look with Dave at the win at Presque Isle in the last start, but had to work for it yesterday. News to Me gets it done, the number 1 horse, as the 9-5 favorite. But Reform School, the rank outsider at 34-1, looks like he's going to do it here. But then Informative makes a move, as you can see, towards the outside. On the inside is News to Me, or maybe I have a, inside News to Me, outside is Reform School. Oof, yeah. And man, they came under the wire, and I thought Informative had gotten me. But when they showed the replay, and then obviously when the photo was developed, News to Me got there by a nose. But again, this was the best ding-dong battle of the day. 34-1 Reform School looks to be, even here in the slow-mo, you're still saying Reform School's got it. But News to Me, now you're thinking, oh, maybe this one can grind it out. And then the horse comes on the outside, and you think at 18-1, maybe Informative. Man, that is tight. Right. But it was fun. News to Me gets it done. So now Mike Trombetta, another nice 2-year-old in his barn. He's got that Independence Hall, the winner of the Nashua. But this one is now 3 for 4 with a couple of stakes races. The only loss, Colonial Downs Turf Sprint. And I'm not sure this horse, the one on the synthetic at Presque Isle, so I'm not sure maybe the turf sprint down at Colonial wasn't even a little bit of an aberration. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave this horse another shot. And I will note, the Colonial Stakes race finished behind Four Wheel Drive, who, of course, ran well at the Breeders' Cup weekend out in Southern California. So, again, I wouldn't rule out turf in the future, but this horse is now proven on the dirt, proven on the synthetic. Mike Trombetta for his wife, Marie Trombetta, nice 2-year-old son of Golden Sense.
Yeah, and I just watching that replay. It's the first time I did see the replay, and even when they showed the replay, you thought the 7 was going to get home at 35-1, and I don't know how that wasn't a dead heat because it looked like the 3 was in front there. So it's just probably the luck of the Bob there, but nonetheless, it's really nice when you get the owner-trainer combination there. Everything kind of stays with the owner and the trainer, so that's nice to see. But Uriah St. Louis, he's sneaky in some of these stakes races. We've seen it in New York, and now we're seeing it down in Maryland, and really good effort there. And again, the horse was just, as you saw, flying late and looked like no one was going to catch the 7, and then up the rail and then to the outside with Informative. So that was an exciting race, and I didn't see it live. If I did see it live, I still thought the 3 won, so good job by Michael Trombetta.
I was in the same boat. And speaking of photos where I thought it went one way as opposed to the other, a friend, Steve Valente in Loudmouth Racing, I hate to, if they happen to be watching, I hate to remind them of the second race yesterday down at Aqueduct where Hellbender, and then Andy Serling came on afterwards and said he called it wrong too. I thought Hellbender won the second race, but it winds up to be Dante's Fire. Right at the wire, and live, I thought Hellbender won. Then when they showed the replay, I thought, and then when they showed another replay, I thought, I think the 6 did get there. And so it was a tough beat for Loudmouth Racing with Hellbender. But one reason I bring it up is because a little bit later in the day, Ellenation won for them. A horse that when I looked up at the board and the odds, I thought they let Elevation get away at a little bit of a price, some value. So again, it goes one way early in the day, but a little bit later in the day, they come through with a nice victory in the nightcap with Elevation, who again, I want to say maybe 7-2. It was a decent little number on Elevation for a horse that I thought on the numbers was clearly best, but it was a trainer coming in from out of town that maybe folks following the Irish circuit are not as familiar with. But again, Loudmouth Racing goes down in one event with a tough beat, but they wind up with a nice win at the end of the day. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, nice little day trip for them. They went down to New York. So, I mean, if you can win one race, or I think even running the money in one race, that's still worth the trip going down from Albany. So, as you said, congrats to Stevie Valeni and Loudmouth.
Let's take a look at the other 2-year-old stakes race at Laurel yesterday, the Smart Halo. It was actually, and I guess probably the breeding folks paid for sponsorship. It's actually called the Warriors Reward Smart Halo. And I'm thinking Warriors Reward, I should have asked Dave Rodman yesterday. I'm guessing that's more of a sponsorship side of things as opposed to, I don't know if I've ever seen a stakes race with 2 horses' names in the title. But technically the Smart Halo, the overall name, the Warriors Reward Smart Halo, $100,000 for the 2-year-old fillies. And it will be number 2 Co-Factor, getting it done here for Kelly Breen as the 6-5 choice. Lucky Trinity runs second at 6-1. The number 3 and number 5 Still Alive runs third. I thought Summer Fortune would be interesting for Jeremiah Engelhardt, the number 6 horse. And as you can see, there's no 6 in the mix there. 6 is a little bit back in the pack, actually finishing 8th in the field of 8. The horse was kind of up and contending. And then when they got in the stretch, just seemed to kind of lose interest or whatever, and eventually was eased. So Summer Fortune, a little bit of a disappointment coming out of a maiden debut effort win. End of October at Belmont, had a nice workout up at Saratoga leading into that. So Summer Fortune, a little bit of a disappointment, but Co-Factor, a horse that I didn't really have in the mix so much, but the Kelly Breen trainee, 3rd in the career debut at Monmouth, followed it up breaking the maiden in the 2nd career start, and then went through the first condition down at Keeneland in the 3rd career start. And I think maybe off of that Keeneland win, that's what people were keying on to make this one the 6-5 favorite, but it was Kelly Breen and Joe Bravo. New Jersey connections, as it were, getting it done. And interesting, this one, after the win at Keeneland, had been working at Keeneland, moved over and worked at Churchill Downs in anticipation of this race. But a nice little, or actually, no, I'm mistaken. I'm looking at the one horse. This one actually, after the Keeneland win, went to Laurel. And so that's actually, not only were they in anticipation of this race, but they were getting some the leg up over the track. And people may also have looked at the workouts, because the last workout was pretty good as well. 47-1, second best of 27. But Co-Factor gets it done for Kelly Breen and Joe Bravo. And again, another, and that's what's nice about these 2-year-old races this time of year. I don't know what kind of a number this will get necessarily, but this is a horse now with 3 wins and 4 career starts for Kelly Breen. So again, another one that'll be interesting to watch as a 3-year-old filly next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Coming in from Keeneland, going to Laurel. You know, the Keeneland meet, as we know, is really, really competitive, and the horse got it done there. And then Let's Stay Positive also coming in from Keeneland. But as you said, disappointing with the Jeremiah runner, because Jeremiah has been doing so well with his 2-year-olds this year. And a horse that won in New York and won pretty impressively at Belmont Park in the middle of October, went down to Laurel and looked, as you said, early part of the race looked great, and then kind of faded to finish 8th there. But the Keeneland shipper was working at Laurel, as you said. That's definitely a big advantage there, and I could see why the betting public made this horse the betting favorite in that spot. But I thought the 3 ran really well in there. If you remember from the replay, kind of had the same trip as the number 2, but the Kelly Breen runner was just a little bit better there, and that was another horse that had a pretty nice price at 6-1 that ran really well and coming off a win over the Laurel tracks. So it wasn't like it was not a logical exacta there, but not the biggest payoff. It's almost $9 there.
Yeah, Lucky Trinity, the 3 horses who ran second, went out for Claudio Gonzalez. That was the horse Dave Rodman liked yesterday. He liked the Gonzalez runners, who's having a great meet, 30% at this Laurel meet. So a guy you got to watch if you're playing down there at Laurel. And again, he runs second. At 6-1 is what the 4th choice. Jeremiah's horse was the 2nd choice at 5-2. And again, Summer Fortune, I won't draw a line through that horse yet. That was just seemed to be maybe an aberration given what we saw in the career debut. But Cofactor gets it done. Clearly one to watch. All right, let's move on to Churchill Downs to the River City. I mentioned it. There was the ladies' version of this race last week, and then this one. And these are 2 races in this fall, late fall season at Churchill Downs. I think these are races you always have to watch as getting runners that will be interesting to follow early next year in the turf season. It always seems to be productive, and I don't think this year is going to be any different. I handicapped it by putting Admission Office on top. Admission Office went off at 6-5. The 9 horse will run 3rd. I said during the handicapper support, I may have made a mistake leaving Mr. Misunderstood out, coming out of a good 2nd last time at Remington Park for Brad Cox. I just found a few others a little more interesting. I thought Get Western, the 8 horse would be an interesting speed horse. Did go out and make some pace, but faded badly late to run 9th in the field of 10. Had that one in my mix. Space Mountain, Cullum Road. Cullum Road, a good 2nd, is the number 1 horse. But, again, I thought, as I looked at that doing the handicapper support, and I had check marks next to Mr. Misunderstood. I just left it out. But in the morning, I was kind of a little more dicey about that. And it is number 4, Mr. Misunderstood, in what, as I said, that James Lewis was a pretty good race. Well, this is a pretty good ding-dong battle in of itself. Next separates 1st and 2nd, 2nd and 3rd, 3rd and 4th. But it is Mr. Misunderstood there, getting it done under the wire. Cullum Road, 2nd for Mike Maker and Tyler Gaffleon. Flojo Florent Giroux was on board the winner. At Admission Office, Jose Ortiz heads down to Churchill Downs for some stakes action on Saturday, running 3rd for Brian Lynch. Again, it's a 6-5 favorite. But Mr. Misunderstood, this is a horse with, I'm looking now, you add the person from yesterday, probably 100. We're flirting with $1 million. We're well over 900,000 at this point for the 5-year-old Mr. Misunderstood. But just a bona fide stakes quality turf sprinter. This was the first win this year, though. So as I said, I had left this one out of the mix. And overall, the numbers this year were a little bit light. But that last race at Remington may have indicated the horse was kind of turning around. And if you jumped on board, got $11.20.
Yeah, watching that race, I was interested to see where Cullum Road would go off at, because the trip at Keeneland was not the best, and the horse, I thought, considering the trip and the amount of traffic that horse had to run through, finishing 5th coming in from Keeneland was a good effort. And then on the morning line, I believe the horse was 10-1 and went off at that 10-1. So I was interested to see how the betting public would respond to Cullum Road. But Mr. Misunderstood, I believe a year ago, was a horse that was 9 for 12 on the turf as far as wins. And then this year, as you said, a little down here in the win column, but a horse that's been capable of winning at Churchill Downs and has proved it. I saw Tyler Gaffleon split the horses with Cullum Road. I'm like, okay, this is a gift. This horse is 10-1. And then I don't know where Florent Giroux comes and splits the other side of the horses. But I thought the Admissions Office was flying late, making a little bit earlier of a move by Jose. It definitely gets the job done there. And it was a better win, for Mr. Misunderstood, because this is a horse that was from off to pace, and they ran a 24 into a 50 half, and that's kind of what the fractions Mr. Misunderstood has been running against and hasn't gotten the job done. And this is a much better field. Well, not a much better field, but a more competitive field than what the horse saw last time at Remington. So getting the job done there with those type of fractions, very, very good. And you got rewarded with a really good jockey-trainer combination with Florent Giroux and Brad Cox. And $11.20 there, and the exacta comes back $88, which I thought was pretty logical there, and pretty logical trifecta as well. 50 cents, you're getting 70 back. But again, I think if Jose makes a little bit earlier of a move, I have to see the whole race again. Admission off is what's flying, so that's a horse to keep an eye on, and you'll get a better price next time out. You won't get that even money price.
You make a great point about Mr. Misunderstood, though, and his Churchill record. He's now 5 for 6 over the Churchill turf, so maybe a little bit of a horse for a course angle there as well. Finally, take a look at the Delmar Stakes race. Fell apart a little bit with scratches, only a field of 4, but again, it's the time of year where you like to pay attention to 2-year-olds. These are 2-year-olds going in the Bob Hope yesterday at Delmar. Grade 3 event, 7 furlongs the trip. The favorite was number 6, Strong Constitution. Went out for Doug O'Neill off a maiden breaker on the turf at Delmar in August, and then a second place finish, close-up second place finish last time on the dirt at Santa Anita in a little restricted stake. So Strong Constitution 6 winds up second to number 5, High Velocity. It was the second choice at even money. High Velocity, Bob Baffert, Gary and Mary West, debut winner at Santa Anita back on October 13th. So again, it was only a field of 4 as things scratched down to that number. So I'm not quite sure what to make of this race overall, but what we do know is Bob Baffert with yet another nice little 2-year-old. We're also looking at a horse that went 5.5 to win the maiden debut win, and now 7. So this is a horse that still has to be tested, perhaps going around a couple of turns. But now Bob Baffert, Gary and Mary West runner, paid $350,000 for this horse as a yearling, and now 2 for 2 in the career, getting it done yesterday, as they say, is the close-up second choice at even money. You got a square $4 in there. Drayden Van Dyke on board.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell, and it seems to happen a lot in California. These 2-year races always get scratched down to 4, 5, or 6 fields, and then you have one horse run really, really well against a shorter field, and then the second place runner runs a pretty good race. So it's tough to tell. So I'm interested to see how the Baffert runner does stretching out, as you said, going 2 turns. I mean, no one's better than Bob doing that, taking these 2-year-olds, stretching them out for the first time, and it's going to be interesting to see how this horse responds to the betting public going 2 turns for the first time. So, I mean, I would have to see one more before I jump aboard a short price on this horse, considering the short field, considering the first time stretching out, if that's what they decide to do. But nonetheless, a nice effort to hold off the favorite in there, the Doug O'Neill runner, who's had a very good year in California. So, short field, I would have to see one more from High Velocity.
All right, that gives a little recap of some of the stakes action. Again, the last couple of weeks a little light after the Breeders' Cup, but don't worry, we got Thanksgiving weekend coming up with a lot of great stakes action out there. And maximum security has been confirmed now for the Cigar, so that's going to be a really interesting race, obviously. It's going to be fun to watch, see what Tiz the Law does down in Kentucky. So again, a lot of great stakes action still out there to be had. But we did a little recap of yesterday's with some nice 2-year-olds that'll be worth watching, certainly. But we'll take a break and come back and maybe give you some clever ideas for this afternoon. We'll see how that works out right after this. Stay tuned.
Where's the best place to find your favorite teams, your favorite food, daily drink specials, and wagering on live horse racing? Legends Field Sports Bar, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Get your game on day or night with 75 flat-screen TVs, tournament-style pool tables, a private banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the Capital Region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops, my bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and Easy Bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth, Merrow, and Sully, Crotty. Take a look at some of the action coming up this afternoon. We'll bounce around. I'll take a look at the late pick 3 at Aqueduct. So if you're jumping in for a late pick 4 or late pick 5, you have some ideas on those last 3 at Aqueduct. Sully's also going to take a look at the stake at Aqueduct. So we'll both go in that direction. But Sully will start things out really going cross-country today. Churchill, Aqueduct, and Delmar. And we'll start with Churchill's 9th race and allowance non-winners of 1 other than a mile and 3/8 on the grass. Again, this is Churchill's 9th. What did you see?
Yeah, these are always interesting races, these 3-turn races, and especially, well, really anywhere, but Kentucky, they're always deep fields, which is what you like to see, and you're going to get a price somewhere. Bluegrass Parkway, the 6th for me, I think it's interesting at 4-1. Rhode Seth sending this one out with Tyler Gaffleone, who's been riding extremely well the last couple weeks down in Kentucky. This is a horse coming in from a mile and a 3/16 race at Keeneland, running 3rd by 2. And that was a really good field that day. But I'm looking at the race 2 starts back, going a mile and a quarter at Belmont, a little bit lighter of a field in an optional claiming race. But Hobo's a really good horse, and so is Value Engineering. So there were good horses in that optional claiming race in that field of 8. The horse ran an 88 buyer and was 7 wide on the turn. The entire way had a wide trip with Jose Ortiz, who usually doesn't do that. He puts his horses in good spots and closed really well to finish 3rd by half a length behind Hobo, who's a stakes winner, and then Value Engineering has had some success. And then earlier in the career, lost to Dream Charlie, who did win the Pennine Ridge by a length and had the same type of trip, had a little bit wider of a trip and got bumped. So I think this horse ran really, really good races against quality horses. Earlier in the career, Digital Age, Forever Mo, Global Access, who did win the stakes race, tried the Saranac up at Saratoga on Woodward Day, closing really well, lost to those horses by a length, and then a Thread of Blue, the Saratoga Derby winner. So this is a horse that consistently runs well against a little bit better. Only 1 for 9 lifetime in the win column, but nonetheless, this horse has a serious closing kick. I'm hoping to get that 4-1 price in here. The second spot, the number 5, is Channel Island, another closer in here from Mike Maker, Ricardo Santana Jr. Last time out, ran really well at Belmont, went the 1.5 miles. The distance wasn't there for that one, but same thing. The horse had a wide trip last time out, was able to beat Lebec down in New York, another nice win there. So we'll see if this horse can string together 2 races in a row like earlier in the career. The number 7 in here at 15-1 I'm going to use. I'm just trying to get a horse that can win or can run well from a little bit closer to the pace, because there's not a lot of speed usually in these races, and sometimes the speed can run away. The 10 and the 7 are going to be on the front end, and I think the 7 stretching out has ran well enough on route distances on the front end earlier in the career, and then against a little bit better, where I'll take a shot in this spot with the speed. But in the 9th race this afternoon at Churchill, very competitive turf, 3-turn turf race, 6-5, 7, and 2. Seth's going to take a look at, as he said, the late pick 3 at Aqueduct. Starting with the 8th race. Race 8 is a state bred allowance race. Non-winners of 1 other than sprinting 6 on the grass.
I have it 9, 7, 5, and 6. Codrington on top. In a race where you could make fairly similar cases for a few of them, but on the numbers, the recent numbers, Codrington seems to have an edge on this bunch. Irod Ortiz on board. That's obviously a bonus, and the last couple of starts were pretty good second-place finishes. Class is maybe the question mark for me. I like the move from state bred allowance into open claimers. This one's kind of going in the other direction. Most of the races, well, 3 of the last 4 were open conditional claimers. The last was a starter allowance, now moving into the state bred allowance. So for me, there's maybe a little bit of a question mark on the class move, but again, it just seems to form the numbers over the past 3 will give Codrington a little bit of an edge. Second slot, Flush. Has some nice positional early speed. Last time a decent second in an off-the-turf event, but the turf races just before were pretty good. It's Kieran McLaughlin. I just think this horse, number 1, I'll be interested to see how the odds shake out here, because I do think the New York bettors all over really these days pay a lot of attention to buyers. And on the buyers, Codrington kind of stands out. and 3-1 on the morning line. I have a feeling that's going to tick down. 4-1 for Flush. Magic Fairy, who I have in the next spot, 7-2, and Winifred J, 6-1. I'll be interested to see how these horses shake out, because I think number-wise, it's not clear what we're going to get necessarily. There's still upside potential for Magic Fairy. Flush, the last 2 or 3 numbers are right in the wheelhouse of these horses, but you go 4 back, the number was maybe a touch better. Winifred J ran a lifetime best by her number last time, so there are arguments to be made that they'll go one way or the other. You just have to look at your crystal ball and decide. I've put Flush over Magic Fairy over Winifred J, and as I said, with Codrington being a touch better than those, given the numbers. But there are other horses in here. Given the scenario, you can also make cases for potentially could step up and be heard from in here. Just to me, these 4 look kind of logical, with, as I say, Codrington probably having the slight edge. In the 8th at Aqueduct, 9, 7, 5, and 6. All right. We'll have a meeting of the minds. Both take a look at Aqueduct's 9th race on this Sunday afternoon. It's the state-bred stakes race, the Notebook. $100,000 for 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs. Your thoughts in the 9th race at Aqueduct?
7-3-4 for me. I usually don't like taking short prices, especially in state-bred sprints, but Dream Bigger, the last couple were very, very good. This is a horse that should have broke the maiden twice. Lost to Harris Bay, who's the 6th in here, and then entered the state-bred stakes race as a maiden and won by 10 lengths. I know that was at the Finger Lakes, but my Italian Rabbi was in there who won at Saratoga, so that was a good state-bred stakes race, and it was $200,000. So you're getting probably the best of the best at the age group at the Finger Lakes that day. But again, the horse has a lot of speed. Should have won first time out. Lost to Tis the Law first time out, and went off as the favorite that day. And then the next time out, as I said, lost to Mr. Harris Bay. So Dream Bigger, I think a repeat of that Finger Lakes race is going to be tough to beat. But break it from the outside stall, don't think should be an issue in here. And the speed's been very good on the main track at Aqueduct this week. The number 3, Bank on Shea, I just think the stretch from 5.5 to 6 is just going to benefit this horse even more. 1 from off the pace. Excuse me, at Saratoga for Jason Servage. You get Irad and Jason together sprinting. Very, very good combination there. 21% at Aqueduct together. So I think the stretch from 5.5 to 6, this is a horse that can win from off the pace and prove that at Saratoga in the field of 8. And then the 4 in here. Going out for August Dawn Farm, which is Coach Parcells' partnership, and Jeremiah Engelhardt. So it's a 2-year-old with Jeremiah, a horse that won by 10 lengths first time out, beating Chowda, who did win earlier this week, I believe, and paid $30 or something like that. And then lost to Cleon Jones. And Cleon Jones is a horse that broke the maiden at Saratoga, won against State-Bred Stakes Company last time out, and this is a horse that went off as the favorite that day. So Cleon Jones is a really good horse, and you know, it's probably one of the highlights for the Mets ever. Being a Mets fan, Cleon Jones right there, so it's nice to see him win. But this is a horse coming out of 2 really good races and an impressive maiden breaker by 10. But for me in the Notebook, I went 7, 3, and 4.
I'm with you on top, and then I have a note at the top of the page. Once I get past the 7, I thought it was wide open, so it's interesting where you went and where I've gone. I put Dream Bigger on top because, again, I'm with you. Ran second up at Saratoga in the career debut, but it was a notable second because the winner that day, Tis the Law, who now may be flirting with a 2-year-old Eclipse Award. Subsequent to that, a close-up second in another maiden special at Belmont, and then still a maiden, but they tried the rich New York Breeders' Futurity, well over $200,000 in the purse up there. Went off as the 4-5 favorite and won by more than 10 lengths. So I just think this is a live runner for Rudy and Mike Rapoli, as you say, Jose Ortiz on board. I'll put Dream Bigger on top. I could have gone in almost any direction past that. I went for Silly Key, the number 2 horse, who put in a pretty good maiden breaker in the second career start last time. Harris Bay attracted some attention on the debut and ran okay in the Sleepy Hollow. May benefit from that race. Also cuts back from that mile Sleepy Hollow to the distance of the nice win back in September. So I thought Harris Bay was interesting. Munaki, who you mentioned for Jeremiah, big winner up at Saratoga in the maiden race. Disappointed a little bit last time with the fourth place finish, but very good. I can also make a case for New York Traffic in the one hole. That race at Parks, 2 back would be good enough. Bank on Shea, who you liked underneath. Jason Service, good debut effort up at Saratoga. Again, to me, it goes through Dream Bigger. But once you get past that horse, I think it becomes very tough. But I said 7, 2, 6, and 4. I mean, what did you think of that one horse? That one horse scares me with the race 2 back.
I mean, with
Castellano on board.
Right. I mean, the horse looked great. I thought ran well first time out, and then the second time obviously got it done. But that's a tough race to face winners for the first time at Parks.
And we should mention the debut effort where the horse ran third. The winner that day was Independence Hall, the nice Trombetta winner of the Nashua.
Right.
So, but I looked at that last race at Parks, and it was kind of, oh boy, if this horse gets back to that race 2 back, it's a fun race. The Notebook this afternoon at Aqueduct. All right, Sully will take a look at Delmar's 7th race this afternoon. The Betty Grable, $100,000 up for grabs for the California sired ladies, going 7 furlongs.
I just wanted to get another stakes race in here, so that's why I went over to Delmar. About 6:30 post for us here. I went with the 3 on top, 3, 1, 7. And 5, I'm a little against the morning line favorite, Mosi Cal, who's coming out of the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I wasn't a fan of the horse in there, losing the blue prize that day. But the number 3, Star of Quality, is a horse that last time out, I'm just giving a pass for it. It was a shorter field that day, lost to Mosi Cal, and then Mosi Cal went to the Breeders' Cup, a 2 back in a state bred stakes race, 1 from off the pace, and before those races, looked great on an optional claiming race, and then they went to a 1 1/8. So I like horses that have shown closing speed going route distances, cutting back to sprints, because it's a sprint race. There's a lot of speed. This horse has closing speed. So I think the race sets up perfectly for Star of Quality in here and for Bill Spar. The number 1 in here is Show It and Mow It. Rafael Bejarano will be aboard. And another horse that has the same kind of tactics, doesn't need the lead in the sprint race and has been competitive from sitting in a stalking role. I wanted to get a little bit of a price at 4 to 1. But the 7 in here I think will go off as the favorite with Flavian Prad. That's Queen BTU. A horse that has ran well over the Delmar service. Is a 5-year-old mare in here. And another horse that they tried the turf last time, did not really go well, but a horse that has sprinted well in the career. Grade 1 events, state bred stakes races as well. Probably the speed of the speed in here, but I think the race sets up off the pace for the number 3 in here. But 7-horse field at Delmar, their stakes race this afternoon. I went 3, 1, and 7.
Finale at Aqueduct is race number 10. State-bred maiden claimers have a 9, 3, 12, and 2. High School Crush. Second time starter by Twirling Candy. I like Twirling Candy as producing win early types. This one, good third in the debut. I can see this one moving forward. Cruising Strong actually finished in front of my top pick last time in that one's debut. Was claimed out of that race by Brad Cox. I probably could have gone either direction with these two. I'm just a little more enamored, I think, with Twirling Candy being the sire of the top pick. So High School Crush over Cruising Strong over Our Lady of Winlock by Central Banker. That's an interesting New York sire of win early type, so I'll use that one not only with Our Lady of Winlock, but Gringotts, the number 2 horse as well, could be live for Chris Engelhardt. So for me, in the finale at Aqueduct, 9, 3, 12, and 2. All right, they're just about underway. They're doing their little pre-talk at Naira, so we'll head to Talking Horses, as I said, with the noon post times over the next 2 or 3 weekends. We'll either abbreviate Racing Across America or maybe start early. If we do start early, we will alert you to that programming change, but we're going to wrap things up. Don't forget 3% bonus on your Churchill wagers this afternoon. Check out the website for more details there. And also don't forget, come on down to the Clubhouse Racebook. We'd love to see you here this afternoon. You can watch all the football action and all the racing action as well. I was rejuvenated. I was in the car for quite a while last night listening to Syracuse. Man, I don't know what that says about Duke, but Syracuse was fabulous on the football field yesterday. That's still alive for a bowl, and it's a long shot, but we'll see how that works out. And now, if my Jets can keep rolling,
they play Washington today, so they could win 2 in a row here.
We'll see. But I'll be out in the front side watching a little football action at various points in the afternoon. We invite you to do so as well every Sunday during the NFL season here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Sully, appreciate the effort. Certainly good luck this afternoon.
And good luck to you.
And good luck to all of you. Again, we're going to wrap it up a little bit early and head to Talking Horses to get some more thoughts on Aqueduct for Sunday afternoon. I'll be back in about an hour with OTB Live. See you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Offtrack Betting.